Don't go away. You want 10,000 in the coin. 10,000 XRP. They're so sweet. I will tell you guys, there's another coin being issued. I'm not going to tell you what coin. It hasn't hit the market for the public to be able to see it. It is on the Ripple Solana network. It is for private central bankers. It is a way to unite the public and private asset-backed structures together. So no matter if you're in the public and you're in the private, you still have a place to be able to go to be able to be part of that Ripple network. And it is asset-backed by trust and loan companies on the private side with our assets. So all of us that operate trust loan companies, the millions of secure party creditors, we are backing that coin specifically for this process, for the awakening, for the changeover in the system. So even though the public, the securities, you get to use BTC ETH, on the private side, we use XLM XRP. So that's the two distinctual differences. And then there's going to be a bridge that helps the public be able to take their fiat currency, which is going to be obsolete very quickly, and help them dump it into that market and stay there to shelter them from the storm that's happening with all of the government changeover. It means that the government won't be able to seize your assets. Like, they won't be able to close your accounts. They won't be able to steal your money because it's protected by our backed trust companies. So basically, they would have to try to infiltrate our system, which is impossible because we are the ones that loan them money. Does that make sense? So there is one more that is on the way out to the market. It should be announced within the next couple of weeks. I will tell you that right now. And it is going to be on the Ripple Solana network. It is part of Solana's systems. So it is coming out. I'm just not allowed to disclose what the actual name of it is, but I will announce it to you guys, or on either, if TikTok is shut down, I'll put it on X. If TikTok is still active, my people, my trusted companies, all the SPCs that I work with, they will know about it first, and there will be that coin itself. Yeah, it's like a bridge coin. Yeah, for sure. So it's there to help public and private together. It's meant so that we, the private companies, the trust companies, can help shelter the public during the changeover. So that's what it was supposed to be. Is it as big as it is on the Ripple network? It is a Ripple system. So XRP, XLM being Solana, it is going on the Solana trading systems. I will tell you that. A 1,000 of XRP disappeared from, that's weird. Good to know. Yeah, I'll announce it as soon as it's ready. As soon as I got confirmation that they're ready to launch on Solana, because it's been worked on for a while. As soon as we know that it's asset backed, that the trust companies have the assets to back it, and that it's established, that it's there, I will announce it to everybody to look for a specific coin. And that should help you guys as much as possible. That's the best thing that I can do. It should bridge that gap between the public and the private. That's the best thing that I can do. That's the only way, because on my side, I can only shelter private assets. On the public side, they can only shelter public assets. On a trading platform that's a bridge currency, like stable coins and all that kind of stuff, that we can do both in there. So which means that we can accept public and private currencies at the same time. So that's the only reason that we're using that bridge system. And it's going to help you transition from one system into the other without any government involvement. So you won't have no worries about losing assets or infrastructure, market cap, or what you're able to actually put into it. I like the way it's going. I like the design of it. I like how they're actually moving their infrastructure around. So it's really good. Ripple is working with all of us, though. All of us trust and loan companies are all asset backed. Everything is registered with the Secretary of State. So this way we know that we're protected, they're protected, everybody's protected. There's no way for the government or the Fed or the Bank of Canada or fucking any Schedule 1, 2, or 3 bank or any agency to be able to stop you from holding those assets. So again, it's up to you then what you do with it. RLUSD rolling all this. They're on the Ripple network. It's one of their main bridge currencies. Yeah. My credit card won't allow me to buy XRP. That sucks. Most XRP systems, depends on the system that you got. I use Ledger Live for everything. So we have the thing like with one of our, well, Ripple also has its own system, but you can use like Flex, NanoFlex. I find NanoFlex is really good, and that's a Ledger Live system. So that actually comes directly out. You can do direct deposits right out of your account, your personal bank account, attached to your name, and put money over there up to like 5,000 a week or something. And that works out really well. As SBCs, do we have anything to do anything Ripple as all the records already? As SPC, do we have to do anything, or Ripple has all the records already? Yeah, I'll be working all that out with you guys. If you're an SPC and you're working with me, if you're on my groups with the trust and loan companies, I'll be showing you guys exactly how all that works. All those contracts are being literally finalized as we speak. So within the next week or so, we should have everything done, completed. You just got to watch with your currencies going from fiat over into any sort of exchange, because you're still monitored by FinTrack if you're on the public side. So transactions over $10,000 can get you flagged. And Canada and the United States we're trying to put a cap on investments of $30,000, but we avoid that on the private side, because if you're operating a common law trust, we can put as much assets as we want over there because we're not monitored. So we're on the private side, only public gets monitored. So your public money gets monitored every time you try to do a transaction. If you're on the public or on the private side and you're using a common law trust, you can put as much money onto your ledger sides as you like. Yeah, you never keep any money on an exchange. The only time you're ever using an exchange is when you're trading. If you're done trading for the day, take your money off the exchange, put it on your cold storage. Your cold storage should have already been filed into your trust. That's your vault. Keeps you protected. It is. It's a slow drip hostile takeover. I put a post up on X today talking about this. I'll give an example of how sneaky they are with this fucking changeover. So a few months ago, I was at Service Canada and we were dealing with the passport. And just for argument's sake, because me being me, I like to investigate things. I knew the exact amount of dollar value I had to pay for the services that I went for. So I took out cash and went to Service Canada with the passport and tried to pay for my services with cash, and they wouldn't even accept it. They're like, no, we don't accept that. And I'm like, what? So a government entity does not accept its own money. No, it has to be an electronic payment. I'm like, holy fuck. So they refuse to take Canadian dollars for services at Service Canada. That's fucked up. Then I get up, and on March 10th, I got an email from Canadian Tire. So Canadian Tire credit cards, I don't know if you guys know those. If you're in Canada, you get a Canadian Tire credit card. That credit card, I get an email from them stating that they will no longer accept any cash payments to be able to pay your credit cards off. They will only accept Interac e-transfers or bank-to-bank transfers in the store. So you cannot go into the store with cash and make any payments on any of your cards. So again, you're moving out of the fiat system. They are strategically, piece by piece by piece, they are taking away all of your ability to be able to pay anything with cash. That's their way of monitoring the program. So as long as they keep you on a tokenization system in the matrix, like in the public sector, so CIBC, TD, RBC, Scotiabank, all the big six normal banks, all the regular banks, they will tokenize and they will have their own version of a coin. That's how it's going to work. And then all of your bank accounts, which are already electronic, will then just transfer over to a tokenization system. That's how they play the game. Then the private central bankers buy up the XLM, the XRP, they will buy up the Ripple network, which keeps them on the private side, or they'll buy up all of the exchanges. And then the problem with the exchanges is that they actually have the ability to fucking steal 30 to 50% of your revenue. So whoever buys up those exchanges, if your allodial titles, like your actual strawman account, is still owned by the state, they can actually still seize your assets. So that's the thing that you guys need to worry about if you're in the public. And that's why we're doing that big switch, that bridge currency, to help the public move their assets into a place that's protected by common law organizational trusts, which means the government cannot go in there and seize any assets because we're sheltering them for the public. That's the only way we can do it while this transition happens. Other than that, the public is susceptible to losing assets and resources. There is no debt. You don't actually have any debt. Every debt creates a credit. Every credit creates a debt. All you have to do is be a creditor, and then you don't have any debt. So I'll give an example. With people in the public, you assume debt. Like you think that you have this debt obligation, like I owe 50,000, 100,000 or whatever it is, and I have all this in debt. When you're a creditor, your asset side of your ledger and your liability side of your ledger are actually equal, because on our side, on the private side of the board, assets and liabilities are part and parcel. Every debt creates a credit. Every credit creates a debt. We know this. So a liability to us is no different than a debt. All private central banks work that way. So that's how it works. I don't agree with the QFS account. The QFS accounts that people are telling people to set up right now with trust wallets and do all that to set up quantum financial accounts, that's actually a scam. A lot of people are getting scammed right now with these whole QFS account fucking systems. That's all a fucking scam. The actual process is to set up a common law trust, take their Ripple network, get a cold storage, buy the asset, hold yourself as a vault, and asset back your securities. That's the actual QFS program. QFS that you're thinking about, or for the general public, is actually a version of modern day welfare or social security. So do you understand how that works? With welfare right now, or social assistance, what happens is the public thinks they're getting money from the government to live on a subsidy every month. That's not actually how it works. As a private banker, I'm going to tell you how it works. What happens there is they're actually leveraging the credit from your bond, from the social insurance or the social security number, and they're paying you out a dividend from the bond, and they're calling it social assistance, but it actually bases off your civil liability bond that's registered with the state. And until you get rid of that, that's how that works. So it's not tax dollars, or it's not people's tax money that pays for people to be on welfare. The money that comes out from a welfare or a social assistance program is actually the currency that's actually produced from the bond that's traded with Fidelity. That's actually how Social Security and welfare works. So again, for people that think that tax money pays for people to sit on social assistance and call them bums, you have no idea how money actually generates and works around the system. It actually, every citizen is entitled to social security and or welfare if they so choose. It's actually their money to start with. So they're just leveraging the bond. The intermediary, which is the government, converts the bond over into a usable currency, which goes from a credit into like a fiat currency, like Canadian dollars or US dollars. And then they send that subsidy out to your national bank account, which would be, if you're operating in the United States or Canada, you would get a fiat transaction out to your bank account. That's how that works. It's the same thing with disability, exact same program. They all belong to basically mutual funds or hedge funds, and the government bonds are all what are called tier one assets. Tier one assets are a private international system. They get converted. Those are international bonds called sovereign bonds. Those get converted at the top. And then what happens is when you go and release that credit, your government then takes control of it and sends you out a piece of it or a percentage of it. And then they keep a percentage of it for administration purposes, just like any other bank. It's like paying points on a loan. Does that make sense? So that's how that part works. So for people that are on, it's the same thing with the refugees and the immigrants. So I know that there was a big, huge kerfuffle all over the internet with people talking about immigrants coming in and refugees coming in from all other countries. And then all of the Canadians and the Americans were kicking up a big fucking stink about tax dollars going to keeping people in hotels. They're getting all these big tax things. They're getting meals and fucking hotels. And then I told people, I'm like, you really need to know how asset-backed securities work, because that's not how that works. When the government allowed a refugee to come in, they associated them with a social insurance number or a social security number, which generates a brand new bond. That brand new bond already starts trading on the international market, and then that bond then gets converted back to the government for usable currency, and that's what they pay them out in order to keep them in hotels, meals, and all this stuff. It has absolutely zero to do with your fucking tax dollars whatsoever. And for people that don't understand tax obligations as a citizen, I'm going to explain that. Bonds, like me, I have a bond with the government of the Bank of Canada. So the Governor General of the Bank of Canada is my fiduciary. What happens is I loan the Bank of Canada the principal amount of $2 million a year. They pay me back $2 million, the principal plus interest, which is 2.5% on that after 365 days. That's how I make money. So once that happens, who's responsible for paying me back? Where does the Bank of Canada get the money to pay me back? I'm going to explain that. What happens is they loan that money, the bond money, out to the existing government under a 4-year budget, which is what you guys call a democratic or democracy government. They then loan that money out for a budget. What happens is the government blows through that money. They spend it on all their programs and sending it out to their buddies and overseas on missiles, war, and genocide. And then they charge the citizens, the taxpayers, the taxes. The taxes that all citizens pay at the federal level all go back to paying back the loan at interest from the government to the private central bank of the Bank of Canada, which then in turn pays off the bond that I loaned the Bank of Canada in order to be able to get started with. That's how private central banking and public taxation actually works. It has people think that their taxes pays for roads, schools, hospitals. No, it doesn't. What happens there is there's actually grant systems that are sent out. And if you know about securities, I'm going to tell you a backdoor trick that a lot of people don't know. Anytime you send money in and out of a checking account, it creates a brand new security, which you are allowed to allocate up to 80 cents on the dollar returned to whoever holds the allodial title. Now that's a whole new game altogether, which means that if I loan $2 million in credit out to the Bank of Canada then loans it to the government and puts it in the government's checking account, they can make 80% off that credit right back to the Bank of Canada right out of the gate. So do you see how securities actually work? There's so much that the public doesn't really understand about the bond market, asset-backed securities, about the way the Federal Reserve works, the Bank of Canada. It's all one big Ponzi scheme. One big Ponzi scheme. And unless you're playing from the top level on the board, you don't got a fucking leg to stand on, because all citizens, which are dead or de facto corporate fictions, are legally liable to pay again. That's the version of pagan and Christian. Pagan is a debtor public profile. Christian is the creditor SPC profile. In God we trust. That's how it works. I'm generally getting overwhelmed. Where's a good place to start with all this? Go to the link in the bio. PrivateKnightsConsulting.com. That's where I'm located. We put thousands of people. Last year in 2024, I pulled $980 million in taxes away from the Canadian government just by moving people into common law organizational trusts. $980 million in taxes is what we saved Canadians. So when you see Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, and fucking Carney and all these guys talking about giving you guys fucking tax breaks, I don't know how many of them fucking say that they could fucking do that, because I can get you 0% tax. You will never pay income tax again. None of your businesses will pay tax again. Nobody pays taxes. And then you are the one that loans the money to the government for them to be able to use. So instead of paying money to the government, you're loaning money for the government for them to pay you back a loan at interest. That's how you're supposed to play the fucking game.